Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the Thursday night edition of the program. We're live, we're national. I'm here in the New York metro area. Happy to be with you tonight. If you want to join our late night national town hall conversation, give me a call. Phone number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. And a bunch of things in the news today, like usual. You know, we react to the news and we talk about culture and society and entertainment and all sorts of interesting topics. And one of the things that I saw today that I thought was interesting was a statement by the NFL. Now, the NFL made a statement with respect to one of the kickers in the NFL giving a commencement speech. And we've been seeing those all over the place, right? Biden gave one recently. We saw Jerry Seinfeld giving a commencement address. Lots of people have been speaking at graduations. And this player, Harrison Butker, he spoke at a graduation for, I think it's Benedictine University. And he made some very heartfelt sentiments about his own personal love story with his wife. And there's lots of things he said. And the NFL put a statement out about that. And I thought to myself, you know, this is so interesting that this is the case. And then it got even worse. You know, on the Today Show, you had Hoda. You know, remember Kathy Lee and Hoda? It's Hoda and Jenna Bush. And Jenna Bush was very taken aback by these statements. And she was just, you know, felt like, you know, don't tell me how to think. And I was thinking to myself, you know, I realized that the things that I say sometimes are viewed by many as hate speech, viewed by others as patriotism. Everybody has a different way of viewing things, right? Because we all have different views and different beliefs. And I do respect that. I think that it's okay for us to have different views and different beliefs. That's just how life kind of works. But at times, I think there are certain things where we have to be able to say, you know, you got to live and let live. So just imagine this kicker, Harrison Butker. He's at a graduation ceremony, Benedictine University, and he talks about his own love story with his wife. And it's a heartfelt moment. You could hear it in his own speech. And I think we have the audio. Listen to this.
That all of my success is made possible because a girl I met in band class back in middle school would convert to the faith, become my wife, and embrace one of the most important titles of all, homemaker. Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world. I can tell you that my beautiful wife, Isabel, would be the first to say that her life truly started when she began living her vocation as a wife and as a mother. I'm on this stage today and able to be the man I am because I have a wife who leans into her vocation. I'm beyond blessed with the many talents God has given me.
Now, his talents, he's an athlete, he's got the ability to be a kicker, et cetera, et cetera. And what I think is beautiful about this is, you know, he's sharing his faith. It's a pretty story. It's a beautiful love story of him and his wife. Amen to him, right? Kudos to him. I may not, I do agree with him pretty much, you know, lockstep. I think that's a great story. But even if I didn't, there are people that share things that I don't believe in. I don't get bent out of shape. And this man is there wearing a cap and gown, you know, his regalia. He's there because he was invited to be there. And the NFL, where he works, took it upon themselves to say, nope, we don't believe anything he said. And they basically condemn everything he says in his little faith-based address. And I don't think it was a very long speech. At least the clips I saw, it couldn't have been more than a half-hour speech. And they went out of their way. And I want to share with you the statement that the NFL put out, because really I just thought, it's so uncalled for, I guess, and just somewhat alarming to me that we would have to put disclaimers on just about everything, right? But here's the speech from the NFL, their statement, excuse me. Harrison Butker gave a speech in his personal capacity. This is from Jonathan Bean, the NFL Senior Vice President and Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer. And he wrote this to People magazine in a written statement. His views are not those of the NFL. As an organization, the NFL is steadfast in our commitment to inclusion, which only makes our league stronger. Now, of course, they said this because Butker's a devout traditional Catholic. And notice how they'll put traditional. I don't know, are there non-traditional Catholics out there? I know there's charismatic Catholics that are somewhat like the Pentecostals. But the reason they're putting traditional in there is because a couple of years ago, they came up with a term called radical traditional Catholic, which they call rad-trad in the FBI. And that those were the people that they started embedding in certain churches to say that these were radicalized Catholics. Now, I'm not saying that it is beyond the realm of possibility that there are people that are radicalized in any faith. I'm not saying that at all. But I am saying for someone to say that he married his wife, he met her in band, and he married her, and that he's the man he is today because he's got a good woman by his side. There's nothing radical about this. And the fact that this is just so crazy that she started living in her vocation, is that radical? Saying that a woman is in her fullest form and in her vocation, in her life, when she's a homemaker, is, again, I just dumbfounded. Really, I understand people disagree. We disagree all the time. But I just can't imagine why the NFL would have to put out a statement saying, hold on a second, folks, I don't want you to get the wrong idea. I don't want you to think that our kicker, that we endorse his faith. Nobody thought that anyway. That's the part I'm thinking here. It's anytime somebody goes to church, you're going to say, listen, so-and-so went to their mosque this weekend. Somebody went to their synagogue. Others went to their nightclub because they don't have a religion, let's just say. And we don't endorse any of this. But yet when it comes time to defend certain players or suspend certain players for different things, like remember when the Cincinnati Bengals had that whole thing where 11 or 18 players were all under criminal charges for domestic violence and all sorts of things. And they were like, well, we got to give a second chance. And, it was a very, very flowery statement then, which I think probably called for a statement. These people committed crimes. This man's committed no crime. This man is simply going to a college and giving a speech and talking about his faith and his marriage. And that's where I just think, we've really gone astray here, right? As a society, as a people. The tolerance towards Jesus and Christianity is almost non-existent, yet the tolerance towards other faiths that are oftentimes radical. The idea that we can accept the idea that people should be applauded or supported in their brutal parachute attack on the Jews, on the Israelis, because they were oppressed for X amount of time. But this man here, he needs a disclaimer. So for everybody listening, I'll tell you, here's a disclaimer for me, right? I read some of the comments about me sometimes, and our folks in WCCO and other radio stations said I was spewing hatred, not the radio station themselves. Don't get me wrong. Some people that were commenting on my commentary. And to them, I say, give me a call. We'll have a conversation. If you don't agree, I'm happy to have that discussion with you. Anyway, we're going to talk about the news of the day, what's going on Capitol Hill, and everything else that's happening in the world, especially at night here. And we're going to talk about everything. I mean, you've got news coming out of Texas, news coming out of New Jersey, news coming out of everywhere. So stick with me, folks. We're going to have an interesting conversation straight ahead. The phone number, if you want to join us after that, around 1045, 1050, we'll be checking in on the phone lines, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Mr. Call Screener, who is a budding radio star, by the way. Richie Valdez is terrific.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
I was wondering, what this combined with the efforts to defund Jack Smith and the other attacks on Biden administration officials say about, the broader effort to discredit you and to discredit the Justice Department, and also how do you manage that? How are you resisting that? And what can you do about that as Attorney General?
We have to go about our work following the federal principles of prosecution. As I said, we follow the facts and the law. We screen out outside inappropriate influences. That's what we're doing here. We're protecting our ability to continue to do high-profile and sensitive investigations, and we will continue to do that.
That is Attorney General Merrick Garland at a press conference today saying they follow the facts and the law, and this is all about protecting President Biden's right to have a presidential immunity, right? To have some sort of privilege with the documents and the interview that he gave to Mr. Hur, Special Counsel Hur. And what's interesting is it's never what's good for the goose is good for the gander, right? They never believed that to be the case. Trump is not allowed to have any of these privileges, rights, and protections, but Biden wants all of them. So I want to get to the bottom of that with Congressman Jeff Van Drew, New Jersey's 2nd District. He's on the Judiciary Committee as well as the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, and he's our guest now. Congressman, welcome, sir.
Good to be with you.
Excellent. And let's talk a little bit about this because I think Merrick Garland is full of it. Of course, I understand you may not agree with that, and that's okay. You don't have to. I'm not trying to paint you into a corner. But I do think this does come across as duplicitous and unfair. Do you agree with that?
I do. And, Rich, if you follow me at all, I'm on the Judiciary Committee. I say what I think, and I say a lot. And I've had some confrontations with Merrick Garland in the past when it came to the way the Department of Justice was being run, when it came to they were going, and we have the evidence, we have the information, we have the emails. They were going to send undercover agents into traditional Roman Catholic churches. You can't make this stuff up.
Crazy, right?
It's unbelievable.
I remember reading that. They called it, if they were Latin Mass, they said it was radical tradition Catholic. That to me is insane that would even exist, such terminology.
They were saying they're domestic terrorists. They were sending agents into school board meetings when parents who were so concerned about their children, as they should be, and love their children, were speaking out very forcefully, but not threatening anybody, but speaking forcefully. They were sending agents to there. We know what happened. I mean, the listeners that are listening right now, just to refresh our memory, they said that Russian collusion, that President Trump was colluding with Russians over politics and winning an election. And they used a gentleman by the name of Igor Danchenko, who was a bad international agent that they paid your tax dollars to give them this information. And, of course, now he admits he lied. And they even have to admit, after the Durham report, which was an objective special counsel report that came out from John Durham, that it was all a fake, that it was not true, that it didn't happen. But it didn't matter anymore because the election was over. So my point is, we've had problems with this guy before, and he acts, when we went back and forth, he actually started to tear up and cry because my questions were a little tough. But the reason they're tough is because he has this tremendous responsibility to be in charge of the Department of Justice and to maintain the rule of law, and he does not do that in any way. And, today, this is just another example with the executive privilege concerning the audio tapes that we want to get for our committee.
Congressman Jeff Van Drew, Republican from New Jersey's 2nd District. That wasn't always the case, right? And in fact, a lot of what you're describing is what caused you to leave the Democrat Party and become a Republican. Isn't that right?
That's true. And we actually celebrated that just this past weekend. I speak to President Trump on average about once a week. And, I've been speaking over the last few months. We wanted to do something special and have a rally in New Jersey. He cares about New Jersey. He wants to win New Jersey. I am in charge of his New Jersey campaign, and I'm going to do everything I possibly can to help him. So we wanted to do something. 5 years ago when I met with the president, he asked me to, meet with him and spoke to me about becoming a Republican, and the rest is history. I did become a Republican, and it was a great day, and I'm proud that I did. But part of that was he came to my district in the state of New Jersey, and we sort of had a big celebration and a big rally in the Wildwood Convention Center, which is a seashore resort along the coast of southern New Jersey. So we wanted to decide what to do this time, and to understand that last rally, and this is fact, that was the most ticket requests 5 years ago that they've ever received. The most, not the highest number of people there because we couldn't fit them in, but the most ticket requests ever. And in February, it was bitterly cold. And I remember I drove in with the president, came in on Air Force One with him, drove in on the Beast, which is his big vehicle, into Wildwood. For miles and miles, there were people lined up. And we had so much fun. And the convention center was packed to the rafters. But he said to me, Jeff, I want to do something bigger. I want to do something better. So we did. We decided to have it on the beach in Wildwood. It is the widest beach in the East Coast. And we had 100,000 people plus at this rally this weekend. And it was a lot of fun. Got to speak a little while. The president, he spoke and fired everybody up. Everybody was just so excited. And by the way, Rich, this is the other part of the deal. 100,000 people plus there. Nobody drunk, no fist fights, no problems. It was just a lot of good Americans loving America and wanting to save our country. It was a great day.
That's better than a regular weekend in Wildwood, right? So I've gone there when I was in high school. I used to go to Wildwood. There was plenty of people drunk back then. But I get what you're saying. I've been to plenty of Trump events, and you're right. It brings out the best in people and some of the best people out there. They get together, and it's really an energy. And I think if people haven't been, they just don't know what they're kind of missing. Folks, we're on with Congressman Jeff Van Drew, Republican from New Jersey's 2nd District, and talking about what happened this past weekend in Wildwood with probably the biggest political rally I've ever seen in my lifetime, and probably the biggest one I've ever seen in Jersey. I'm born in Brooklyn, but I live in Jersey now, and I've seen a few political rallies, and I never see anything that big.
Well, we had fun.
Go ahead.
When he had me up there with him, I said, Mr. President, welcome to the largest the largest political rally in the history of the state of New Jersey. Of course, the mainstream press are looking for something. I'm not making this up either. So there was one article somewhere. No, they think that in 1932, not kidding you, in 1932, there might have been a rally somewhere around Seagirt in New Jersey where they had 120,000 people. Come on. Right. Give me a break.
You got to love that. The Jersey press, they do the fact-checking when they feel like it. Folks, we're coming right back with Congressman Jeff Van Drew from New Jersey, and we're going to talk a little bit about El Trompito Donaldus Magnus, the 45th President of these United States, and his comments outside the courtroom today. Don't move a muscle. I'm Rich Valdez, our guest, Congressman Jeff Van Drew.
I want to listen to you, Rich, all the time.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
The good news is the polls are through the roof. One just came out way up in North Carolina, way up in Georgia, way up in Nevada, way up in Arizona. Overall, way up, leading by 5, 6, 7 points, crooked Joe Biden. Most crooked president we've ever had. the worst president in the history of our country. We have a lot of congressmen and some senators down today, and they're all up in arms over this. They can't even believe it. We have quite a few congressmen. I guess you'll be talking to them in a little while. But I want to thank you very much for coming. At least we're getting the word out, but it's very unfair. I'd like to be in these various states where I should be campaigning like anybody else. This is a Biden trial. This all comes out of the White House and the Department of Justice. This is all them. In fact, a lead person from the DOJ is running the trial. So Biden's office is running this trial. This trial is a scam, and it's a sham, and it shouldn't happen.
That is President Trump outside of the courthouse in New York City earlier today, after citing every legal scholar that makes any sense out there saying this whole thing is a sham. He went on to say that there's a bunch of congressmen there that have his back, and they do. And, of course, when you put a gag order on a president who's in the middle of a campaign, a former president trying to get back into office, I think it's rather brilliant to have people lining up outside the courthouse to have his back and say everything that he can't. Our guest is Congressman Jeff Van Drew. Congressman, what do you make of the president's comments earlier today?
No, they were good, and they were to the point, and they were similar in many ways to what the hearing was like that we had in Judiciary today. I couldn't go because I knew that I had to really be there with my friend, my colleague, and my chairman, Jim Jordan, on the Judiciary Committee. But we really, had very serious and intense debate. If you get a chance, take a look at it, Rich, back and forth.
Will do.
About, why we were holding the Attorney General in contempt. And we passed the legislation. We passed the resolution holding in contempt because he received a subpoena. And This is what people should understand. This is really important. So we have the transcripts of what happened when they interviewed Joe Biden about the classified documents that he took from a restricted area when he was vice president and when he was a U.S. senator. Understand, as vice president and U.S. senator, you do not have the opportunity, or congressman for that matter, you don't have the opportunity to declassify and remove that information from a top secret area. But he did. He did it as both vice president and as a U.S. senator. He took it, he kept it in an old garage at his home.
That's stealing, isn't it?
Next to a collapsed dog kennel. But this gets worse. He then used that material, gave it to his ghostwriter on a book deal where he made $8 million. So in essence, he took classified material and used it to make money. That's pretty bad stuff. I mean, that's really wrong. Yet he was not indicted because the special counsel that interviewed him said he was an old, but he said kind but old gentleman that couldn't remember things very well. In other words, he was that the jury would, in essence, probably not convict him because they would feel sorry for him. Well, that's not somebody that we should have as the president of the United States. And remember, this was in the Garland's Department of Justice, and they still said this. So we have said on the Judiciary Committee, the majority of us, the Republicans, have said we don't just want the transcripts, which we have, that goes through all this stuff. We want the audio. And the reason that you want the audio is because you can get a better sense of how it went. In other words, is he really cognitively impaired and therefore unfit to be tried? And if that's true, then he's certainly unfit to be president. Or, and it's either or, it's one or the other, Rich. I want you to understand this.
Right.
Or he is someone who knew what he was doing, broke the law, took this material as both vice president and as a U.S. senator, and used it to make money for himself. One or the other. There's no in between here. So that's what we can ascertain by listening to the audio to help us hear exactly how that actually went. They won't give us the audio. We subpoenaed it. They will not give it. They refused. So now we're holding them in contempt, and we did because they should give it to us, and there's no immunity here. I'm not trying to get too technical, but I want your listeners to understand that. They already gave us the transcripts. They've already given us the transcripts. So they now can't declare immunity in any way or...
because you already have this information.
Exactly right. You got it. You can't claim executive
I guess they feel it's not as dangerous if you read it on a black and white page, but if you hear it, it's, oh my goodness.
Exactly. And so that's the point. You may not and by the way, they say there's nothing to worry about. It's all good, and again, we went back and forth with debate and I said, no. And then they kept trying to go to Trump and Trump and Trump. And what they're doing is trying to keep even the committee members, the members of Congress that are in this committee back and forth, trying to keep us not looking at the subject at hand, but getting back into a debate about Trump and other issues. They even went into some of the things he said at the Wildwood event that we had, and I just kept bringing him back home and said, no, this is about one thing. Was President Biden, is he cognitively able to be the president? Does he have good cognitive abilities? Or does he not? And if he does not, then he knowingly broke the law. And if he does not, then we have a two-tier system of justice, because in the case of Donald Trump, by the way, much different. He was president when he took these papers out. He stored them carefully. They weren't in an old garage. And most of all, he wasn't granted this special deal that President Biden was. What they did with him is say, no, we're going to we're going to go forward with the case, which, of course, they tampered with the papers and, the rest of the story.
Sure, and they conducted a whole raid.
Yep. So the bottom line is, it's either justice for thee, but not for me, or the president is cognitively impaired. There's nothing else here. It's one or the other.
Unreal.
And that's where we're at. So we passed the legislation today. We passed the resolution. And we've got to continue to try to get this stuff. But, and again, this is what upsets people. You wouldn't get that break. They tried to give a special break to Biden's son, but thank God there was a good judge that wouldn't do it. We now have a legal system in the United States of America that is not fair by any means to everyone, regardless of their position in life or who they are. That's so unbelievably wrong. It's everything that we don't want. We fought for the reverse. People have died to keep our country free, to make sure this would never happen. We had a revolution over it to make sure that we established America, and this is where we're at. This election matters so much.
Congressman Jeff Van Drew, what's interesting to me, and again, maybe this is me looking at it as a layman and not as a congressman like you, but maybe you could clarify. I find it fascinating. There's two former White House staffers, right? You've got Peter Navarro, trade advisor. You've got Stephen K. Bannon, who was also a strategist to the president. And these guys were both held in contempt, and they're getting locked up, right? And they were charged, and it was a whole thing. Yet you've got Eric Holder, who was held in contempt, and now you've got Merrick Garland with the resolution from today. And it seems like they get treated very differently. What's up with that?
We know what's up to it. You're exactly right. You're right on the money here. It's what we spoke about just a few minutes ago. Justice for thee, not for me. We have a new system now where we weaponize the judiciary. We weaponize the Department of Justice. We know. I mean, this stuff, you can't make it up. It's scary. We know, for example, that the FBI, when they use FISA, and I think most of your listeners are probably familiar, but for those that aren't, it's a way that agencies, law enforcement agencies, can look you up and find out any information that they want to on you. Now, sometimes they need to do this with foreign terrorists that come over, even those that are interacting with Americans. But the problem is they do not have to get a warrant. So, again, Jim Jordan, been fighting for years. I'm fighting alongside with him now to make sure that you get a warrant. Now, the other side will say, oh, it would take so long to get the warrant and you'd need thousands of judges. No, you wouldn't. It's only about 1.5% of the cases. But because you don't need a warrant, guess what's happened? Millions of people over years have been looked up, have been investigated, their personal lives, their banking, their social values, how they behave, what they do, who they're going out with, who they're married to. And you know what they did? They were looking up husbands, were looking up wives, wives were looking up husbands. They were looking up people who were conservative, people who, buy guns, people that have, in some cases, people who were very religious and went into religious stores. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And that's where we are now. So when people say it isn't as it should be right now, they're not kidding. I pray to God we win, and when we win, we need a strong Department of Justice. Don't misunderstand me. And we must protect ourselves against foreign adversaries. But we do not need our Department of Justice spying on good American people because they have certain beliefs, values. For example, they may be conservative. Right. I don't care whether you're conservative, liberal, progressive, socialist. If you're an American and you're not doing bad things and you're a good American, you should not be spied on by our own Department of Justice.
Period. The end, right? We have to follow the Constitution. Congressman, stick with me. We got to take a quick pause, but a couple of your colleagues, somebody I call Congressman Adam Schiff for brains, and Congressman Jerry Nadler, they had their panties in a bunch at your hearing earlier today, and I want you to hear a little bit of that and get your reaction to it before we let you go. Folks, we're on with Congressman Jeff Van Drew, and we're coming right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. The best guests, the best opinions. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
The special prosecutor decided that there was no reason to prosecute for his own good reasons. He stated them in his report. He made what I regard as a gratuitous smear of the president by his comment on cognitive impairment. We will see. We don't need the transcript to see if the president is cognitively impaired. The president speaks all the time. There are going to be 2 debates. The American people can decide whether the president is cognitively impaired. They can decide whether his opponent is cognitively impaired. They're going to see plenty of evidence of that in the debates and in the campaign. So we don't need the transcript to know whether the president is cognitively impaired or not. The evidence is going to be before the American people.
That is Congressman Jerry Nadler at the hearing to hold AG Merrick Garland in contempt of Congress today. You've also got Adam Schiff that was, again, having his panties in a bunch saying, look, we don't need to have the Republicans being the criminal defense firm for Trump. It just, the rhetoric is laughable. Our guest, Congressman Jeff Van Drew, your reaction?
Look, and it's what I said at the hearing, too. I wish we didn't need the hearing. I wish we didn't need to have it. Just comply. You're not worried about his cognitive abilities, if you're not worried about what he said during that interview or how it sounded, we already have the transcript, then don't invoke executive privilege. Just give it to us. If you've got nothing to worry about, you've got nothing to worry about. Just give it forward. You know, if you ask me for the transcript of the hearing we had and what I said at that hearing back and forth, I'd be glad to give it to you. You know, and you can use it in any way you want as long as you don't make it into something that it wasn't. Nobody's going to do that. We just want to hear exactly what happened. They're worried, number one. Number two, they're banking on, you know, they know that President Trump's ahead, but we cannot and should not take that for granted. We have to work hard to the last minute of the last. I'm not kidding around because you know how elections can go. And so they want these debates. And, you know, when you're behind, like they are right now, it's always good to have a debate. President Trump wants to have it just because he wants to really go face-to-face with Joe Biden and talk about the issues, talk about Biden and what he's done to this country. And that's good. And he's going to do a great job. Personally, I don't like the fact, and I know President, you know, Trump doesn't worry about it because he's willing to fight both of them. But he's going to have a double debate each time. He's got ABC and he's got CNN. So he's going to not only be debating his opponent, he's going to be debating the moderator because he's going to get hard questions, loaded questions, and they're going to give Biden easy questions. I would have preferred if there had been two moderators for each, one conservative and one from these left-wing stations. And then you would have at least had a little bit more fairness. So he's going to have a fight on his hands. But, the train of thought is maybe if it goes that way, people are just going to see how unfair once again it is, just like all these hearings that are being coordinated and set up across these left-wing areas across the country to get the president. Why don't they just let the man run for office? And if they're right and he's so bad, he'll lose the election. But why not let him run for office? Because he's going to win. That's why they don't want it.
Exactly.
And they don't want it to be fair. But they tried impeachment, and it didn't work. And then they tried to take him off the ballot, which was really god-awful. They learned that from, I guess, Russia and China, and it didn't work. Now they're coordinating these hearings to hold them in court all around the country in these very left-wing areas. It's not going to work either. It's backfiring them. Because you know what people are starting to understand and know? Mm-hmm. Rich, if it happens to him, it can happen to you.
Absolutely. That's 100% truth. And I think so many people are realizing that, from men in the black community to people in the, in every walk of life. They're saying, this is it. This is it. If they're doing it to him, they're going to do it to me. And enough is enough. Congressman Jeff Van Drew, let everybody know how they can keep up to speed with the amazing work you're doing in the Judiciary Committee and with the Trump campaign and everything else you're doing.
Well, first of all, they know they can watch the hearings and all that, but that's hard to do because people work. Some people do. But we have a great email newsletter. And if you just, in our office, you look up, we have a big presence on our social media. So you just look me up online. All the information is there, including my office. If you want my email newsletter, and it's not the newsletter where I'm just cutting ribbons and, doing little things. I mean, we get down to it. We'll be talking about these hearings. We'll talk about all the real issues of the day and what's going on. So you get in touch with my office, either through email or phone call, and they will get you that newsletter to you as well. And just look at the stuff we've got online and on YouTube. A lot. I mean, because I'm in judiciary. And, this is not a dress rehearsal, Rich. This is the real thing. So,
that's the real deal. You guys are going at it on the front lines.
Exactly. So you look on YouTube, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of the hearings, a lot of what I've had to say. You get a lot of information there as well.
Outstanding. Congressman, you are a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot. I want to thank you for staying up late with us and having this talk. I hope to do it again really soon. Godspeed, and whatever you need, we're here.
Right back at you. I really appreciate you. And a fellow Jerseyite. I didn't even know that. So
yeah. Born in Brooklyn, but I came to Jersey at 12. They haven't been able to get rid of me since.
May I ask you what town you live in?
Yeah, I'm in Ridgefield Park.
Well, I've lived most of my life in southern New Jersey, but until my early teenage years, my family, we lived actually not that far away in a tough town, Patterson, New Jersey.
Oh, P-Town. Yeah, I know P-Town really well. Oh, man, we've got to catch up. I'll definitely catch you at the next event. Let's definitely stay in touch. Congressman, again, thank you so much. They're kicking me off the air because I got to take this break, but I do appreciate it, and hopefully we'll get in touch again really, really soon.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Great conversation with Congressman Jeff Van Drew. And folks, make sure you check out their website, vandrew.house.gov. And folks, straight ahead, we continue the conversation on what's going on in the Senate campaign in Virginia, as well as a couple of other stories in the news of the day. I want to, there's a lot of things. There's some police bills I want to talk about. We're going to get to a lot in the next hour, so don't miss it. And the number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the Thursday night edition of the program and our telephone number. If you want to join our late night national town hall conversation, give us a call, 833-482-5337-833-4-Valdez. A couple of quick headlines for you. You've got several Republican states that are filing a lawsuit against the Biden administration over the LGBTQ ideology being promoted. And the Biden administration fires back in many ways with the Department of the Department of Health and Human Services. Javier Becerra, he is the secretary there. He says that the Department of HHS will withhold funds from religious hospitals that refuse to provide sex change operations for young children. This is pretty interesting. Listen to this.
Can you commit here today that your department will not withhold federal funding from hospitals or doctors who refuse to provide the gender-affirming care that you are mandating if it violates their religious beliefs?
So now, Congresswoman, recognize you're going somewhere completely different. First, you started talking about how a doctor should have the rights to not offer particular care. Then you stretch it out to provide for the system-wide services.
Yes, you've put out this guidance.
Very different.
You've put out this guidance, and doctors do need to know.
Yes.
What are you going to do if they refuse to provide this care?
A doctor, if that doctor has religious objections, that doctor under these rules is not required to offer the care.
Okay, so you're committing here today that you will not withhold federal funding.
Doctors don't get federal funding, ma'am.
But the hospitals do.
Okay, so now talk to me about the hospital. Are you saying that
Don't
confuse the two.
Okay,
a doctor is not a hospital.
But the doctors are working in these hospitals. Are you going to say today, are you committing that you will not withhold federal funding from those healthcare facilities?
If a healthcare facility is violating the law and not providing the service they're required to,
we
they are
knew
not entitled
that you
to the
would
resources.
Withdraw federal funding.
And of course, the battle goes on and on. That was, again, Javier Becerra, the secretary of HHS, going at it with Congresswoman Mary Miller. And it doesn't end there, right? You've got, again, 18 Republican-led states that are moving forward with a lawsuit with respect to the promotion of LGBTQ ideology. And this battle spills over into the Senate and everywhere else, right? This is something that we saw become kind of ground zero in Virginia, because in Virginia and Loudoun County, this is where I think a lot of things just came out of everywhere, right? And these Title IX issues that we're facing would allow transgender people to go by different names and preferred pronouns and use whichever restroom they like, and compete against people, biological males could compete against biological females in the same sport. It's a very, very contentious world, right? and there's a lot going on there, and that's just one of the topics. I wanted to start with that one, and we'll get into others. But I want to talk about this with somebody who's running for the Senate in Virginia and is up to speed on everything that's going on in Virginia, and that's Eddie Garcia. He's a candidate for the United States Senate, and he's a retired Army major. Eddie Garcia, welcome to the program, sir.
Good evening, Rich. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for opening your platform to me and my campaign. I'm excited to be here for the first time.
Amen to that, brother. Happy to have you, and I look forward to the conversation. Now, for those of us that are just meeting you for the first time, like me, tell us a little bit about your background. I know you served in the military. Let's start there.
Well, Rich, I'm the son of South Texas. I grew up in a small country town. I'm the son of a ranch hand down in South Texas. I come from a working class background. But fortunate for me, I had a great grandfather, and stepfather all fought in the U.S. Army in World War I, World War II, and Vietnam. And so I joined the military. I enlisted when I was 17 years old. I served my nation for 22 years. In that process, I became an officer. I jumped out of airplanes for about 16 of those years. I graduated from the U.S. Army Ranger School. I deployed to combat 3 times to Iraq, 3 times to Afghanistan. I finished my career in the Pentagon, working with the House of Representatives, working with the U.S. Senate at the federal level on policies that affect our veterans, our national security on behalf of Gold Star families. And after 22 years of service, to come back and see working people struggling further today than they were 2 decades ago, while Washington continues to get fatter and richer and more powerful, the little guy keeps getting smaller and losing control of the basic necessities that they need in order to live. And we need change desperately in Washington, D.C. It's time to get rid of these career politicians and these career bureaucrats to bring real change on behalf of working people across the nation. That's what I'm focused on, Rich.
Well, I want to thank you for your service, sir. And I also want to get your take on what you hear the Secretary of HHS discussing with withholding funding from hospitals that have a religious background that are taking exception to offering sex change surgery to young children.
It's a shame. It's a shame that we have a federal government that is attacking the very Constitution and the First Amendment that it claims to support and defend. Our secretaries take an oath of office, just like our officers in the military, just like I did many times as enlisted and as an officer, to protect and support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and for our secretaries in these agencies to go attack the First Amendment. These are doctors, these are nurses, these are medical practitioners that we need desperately, that we're short across the nation, and hospitals that have religious exemptions and religious beliefs that they live by, and to make them choose whether or not to maintain their religion and their religious rights or have a job is unconscionable. It's this type of bureaucratic nonsense that's going on in Washington, D.C. That has led us into this crazy place that we're at. And so I tell people across the Commonwealth of Virginia, if we don't have a government that comes from us, we have a government that comes at us. And right now, that's a classic example of our government that's coming after the people that it claims to represent. We see it now in our religious hospitals and people who have a religious conscience. We've seen it with Tim Kaine here in Virginia, where the FBI is targeting traditional Catholics, where the FBI is targeting concerned parents in our school boards, and they have been doing this for years. Tim Kaine sits in the U.S. Senate. He lives in Virginia, and he's okay with the Virginia FBI office targeting Virginians who practice their faith according to what they believe. That's the exact type of politician that we need to unseat and bring in somebody who's got fresh ideas, who wants to serve and not be served, and wants to work on behalf of the people and not on behalf of the special interests in Washington, D.C.
Folks, we're on with Eddie Garcia, retired U.S. Army major, a candidate for the United States Senate from the state of Virginia. Interesting conversation thus far. We're coming right back with him. If you want to join the conversation, if you have a question, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. No hair, no care, and live on the air, it's Rich Valdez.
Every single review, every legal scholar that I've been able to read said there's no case, there's no crime, it's a disgrace that it was allowed to happen. The judge, as you know, is highly conflicted, like nobody I've ever seen is conflicted. He should not be the judge. He should not be allowed to have anything to do with this case. He should be so far away from this case. Outside, if you take a look, it looks like we're Fort Knox. There's so many police, and they don't allow people to come. You know, you're allowed to have friendly protests, but we're not allowed to have anything here. They have more police and more assistant DAs and DAs. I've never seen anything like it. Over what everybody, Alan Dershowitz, everybody said, there's no crime here. There's no crime. Jonathan Turley, every single person, Greg Jarrett, Andy McCarthy, look, anyone you want to name, Mark Levin, great lawyer, all of them, great lawyers, great legal scholars. Every single one said there's no crime. The crime is that they're doing this case. This was a case that wasn't going to be done, and then when I announced I was running, they brought it up. They could have done it 7 years ago. This could have been brought 7 years ago, but they wanted it right smack in the middle of election. These are very dishonest people that we're dealing with.
That is former President Trump outside the courthouse in New York City, where he's reiterating his position on what is happening to him in this trial that he's going through when, according to him, he should be out there campaigning. And according to me, too, I think that's exactly the case. But I think this paints a very accurate picture of how politics has been weaponized in America. And our guest, Eddie Garcia, candidate for the United States Senate in Virginia, retired U.S. Army Major. Eddie Garcia, when you hear former President Trump's comments about the weaponization of the legal system against one's political opponents, and you yourself earlier mentioning how Tim Kaine has sat there and done nothing as the FBI has gone after traditional Catholics that they've labeled as terrorists or radical traditionalists. To me, this speaks of a greater problem of corruption in our government. Would you agree?
I agree 1,000%, Rich. Yeah, the DOJ, the FBI, the CDC, the FDA, the IRS, I mean, you name it. The EPA, they're all coming after American citizens. They get so well funded. Washington takes in $4.7 trillion a year in taxes, and they dole it out to their friends and their families in these departments. And these departments get paid to find an enemy, and inevitably the enemy is the American people. And we have politicians who sit back and they just let this happen. It can't continue this way. That is one of the reasons why I'm running for U.S. Senate, because we got to get these career politicians out of there. We have to have people who want to serve and not be served, people who understand what real service is. I've served my nation for 22 years. It's time that we do the simple things once again, the things that the government can do. We can secure our borders. We can eliminate taxes on our seniors. We can give school choice to our parents. We can stop spending so much money across the rest of the world and focus and prioritize the American people once again. But it's going to take people standing up, showing up, and speaking up on behalf of the people of America. And that's what I'm trying to do. And we're gaining a lot of momentum here in Virginia to do just that. We're going to defeat Tim Kaine. We're in the throes of an election right now, so I'm campaigning 24/7 because that's the type of commitment it's going to take.
Eddie Garcia, when you were a kid, you said the son of a ranch hand from Texas, and now you're in Virginia after serving in the U.S. military and the Pentagon. And was that the goal for you? Did you wake up one day as a kid and say, you know what, I want to make it to D.C., I want to work in the Pentagon, I want to be a soldier?
No, it was never a goal to me to end up in Washington. Well, I'm not in Washington, I'm in Virginia, but it's not a goal necessarily to end up in Washington, being surrounded by a lot of these crooks and criminals. But it's necessary right now. I grew up doing the simple things. We didn't have much. A lot of people where I'm from still don't have much, but we have community. We have love for one another. We have faith in family, and we have service to this nation. And I wanted to serve this nation because my grandfather, my great-grandfather had all served. After 9/11, I wanted to see the Taliban defeated. I want to see America prosper. 22 years later, the Taliban is stronger than it's ever been. America's weaker than it's ever been. It's not because of the soldiers on the front line. It's not because of the veterans who have come back. It's because Washington has plundered the American people. They've plundered our nation. They're selling it off to the Chinese. They're not fixing the basic necessities that they're supposed to be taking care of, which is securing our border and strengthening our military. They're doing the exact opposite. They're selling it off piece by piece. They're enriching themselves and their family. If we don't do something about it now, we won't have a future to look forward to. That is why it's so crucial this year in 2024 that the people of Virginia, the Commonwealth, elect me over Tim Kaine. It's also why it's so crucial that the people of America re-elect Donald J. Trump to defeat Joe Biden, so that we can take back our nation, we can restore some sanity to Washington, D.C., and do the simple things that the government should be doing, which is protecting the American people.
Amen to that. Now, for people that are, just tuning in and learning about Eddie Garcia, candidate for the U.S. Senate in Virginia, retired Army major, give us, I guess, a little insight into, what your first order of business is when you get there. I know you want to take out Tim Kaine, and we all know there's plenty of good reason to do that. But what do you want the people to know that you're bringing to the table?
Well, first and foremost, my priorities we have to secure the border. We can't do anything right now without a secure border. The problems at the border right now expand all across America, in every city, in every small town. And nobody knows that more than the middle and the working class and minority communities across the nation, because the drugs that flow across that border, that fentanyl ends up in the neighborhoods of the people who have been ravaged by it already. The criminals and the human traffickers that come through that border, they end up in poor neighborhoods and working class neighborhoods. The unaccompanied minors that are overcrowding public schools. Whose schools are they overcrowding? Those that can least afford it, that schools that are already bad off in inner cities. The border is the number one target on my list. We have to build a 1,300-mile wall that President Trump asked for 7 years ago. Republican U.S. Senate and a Republican House of Representatives wouldn't give it to him. They said it was too much money. It was $29 billion. 7 years later, the border's worse than ever, and we've spent hundreds of billions of dollars. This is classic Washington, D.C. That's why these elections at the primary level matter. We have to make sure we elect conservatives, the most conservative people that we can, so that when we go to D.C. and we retake the Senate and President Trump retakes the White House, we have an agenda on our hands that we can accomplish, that we will accomplish, and it's going to take people of character, people who have values, that are willing to stand up, speak up, and show up on behalf of the people and do what the people are asking for. And if we do that, we'll continue to reshape this nation back to what it once was before Joe Biden and these radicals took over.
Major, let everybody listening know how they can support your campaign. If they want to put their hand in their pocket and donate, what do they do? Where do they go?
They go to EddieGarciaVA.com. That's EddieGarciaVA.com. EddieGarciaVA.com. Check out my website. Learn about me. Learn about my history, where I come from, what I plan to do when I get in there, what my priorities are. I guarantee you 95% of the Americans, if you check out my website, you're going to like what you see. You're going to like what you're going to hear. It's time to be inspired once again with good people that are going to run for office instead of these career criminals that have been up there for a generation. If you do that and you support me, it would be much appreciated. I'm not chasing big donors. I'm not funded by out-of-state PACs and that have nefarious goals in mind. I'm working for the working people across America.
6 combat deployments, 3 in Iraq, 3 in Afghanistan, special operator for 14 years, commander of paratroopers in the 82nd Airborne Division, serving in the Pentagon. It's quite a career, sir. I want to thank you for being with us. You're a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot. Godspeed to you and good luck.
Thank you, Rich. It's a pleasure for being here.
Amen. Likewise. All right, folks, we're coming back. We're going to continue our discussion with the attack on police officers. I don't want you to miss it. And Open Phone America is coming up. Don't miss that either. I'm Rich Valdez.
There's more news in your commentary, in your analysis, than there is on the news network.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Our officers need our help, and they need it now. It's why we're here today. As tens of thousands of our men and women in blue travel to the nation's capital, House Republicans are taking up 7 measures to support them. One of the shocking trends we see here in D.C. is the rise in juvenile crime paired with the lack of consequences. Soft on crime policies and anti-police rhetoric have only made it harder to be a police officer today. Congress must give them the tools they need to protect their communities, loved ones, and themselves in the wake of the recklessly irresponsible defund the police movement.
It's National Police Week, and you've got cops from all over arriving in Washington, D.C. for a bunch of different reasons. Some are there to lobby, others are there to celebrate, to be acknowledged, to be honored, and as they should be. You guys know I've got 2 brothers that were on the job, NYPD, both retired now. One of my brothers is still a Fed. And I myself was a volunteer with a police department in Essex County, New Jersey, and really enjoyed my time doing that as well. And I can tell you that cops get a raw deal time and time again. And this doesn't mean that nobody's above reproach. It doesn't mean anything other than cops work hard. By and large, they're the good guys. By and large, they're not treated well. By and large, they're retiring like crazy. And fewer and fewer people want the job because more and more politicians have started to kneecap cops, have enabled the criminals to do what they do best, commit crime. And when you have pro-crime progressive prosecutors that coddle criminals and really just encourage more crime, you get the situation that we're in today. Women getting raped after they've been strangled to the point of passing out with a belt in the middle of the street, raped between 2 cars. The type of things we're seeing should never happen and we shouldn't see. But this is where we are. And sadly, politics plays a role in this. And that's why we have to focus on these bills that are in Congress to make sure that the right laws are there, that the support is there for the men and women in law enforcement. Because otherwise, you're going to get less and less people to be heroes, to take that ultimate sacrifice in the day-to-day going on of life, right? Imagine an America without a strong or robust military. Imagine an America without a constabulary. No cops. Or where we are, on our way to having less and less cops. Listen, a lot of people who listen to this program in rural areas, and they are the cops, and that's great. My family has a farm out in Pennsylvania, and I know exactly what you mean. But in the city, you need people, right? And not everybody's carrying, not everybody's protecting themselves, and not everybody can, right? I have 2 daughters. Both of them are tiny, little 5-foot nothings that weigh 100 and some odd pounds. And I want them to defend themselves as best they can, but I also want brave officers like Sergeant Betsy Brantner Smith to come to their aid should they need her. So I want to welcome Sergeant Betsy Brantner Smith. She's the spokesperson for the National Police Association and a friend of this program. Sarge, welcome back.
Hey, I want you to tell your daughters I'm 5 foot nothing too, and I carry every day, all the time. We'll have to talk.
I love that, and that's what it's all about, right? Doing the right thing and then having the courage to do it. Now, Sarge, I know that it's National Police Week, and we, of course, at this program we honor and respect the work of the men and women in law enforcement. But aside from that, there are bills that are out there. And we heard a little bit about that on the way in from some audio we played from Congresswoman Fishback discussing a couple of different bills, the LEOSA bill, the DC crime bill, and others discussing carrying and other things like that, because these are things that are of importance right now. And there's a lot of things on the agenda. Walk us through some of it.
Well, first of all, LEOSA, the Law Enforcement Officer Safety Act, that is the reason that people like myself who are retired can continue to carry in just as though I was an off-duty police officer. That means I can carry in every state. I have to go through some appropriate training and things like that. And for me, the state of Arizona qualifies me, but it's going to make it a little bit easier because don't you remember, retirements are up 20%, resignations are up 40%. Don't you want people who are leaving the job at least to be able to train and carry around this nation? We also have the Police Our Borders Act, which I really like a lot because that is going to require the Attorney General to provide detailed reporting on exactly what's happening at the border and how it affects crime, including human trafficking, fentanyl, things like that. The Protect and Serve Act is another one that would make a new federal crime, and I'm not big on adding, big legislation, but in a lot of areas, the federal government and federal prosecutors can't get involved when a police officer is assaulted. So the Protect and Serve Act that the National Police Association and the Fraternal Order of Police are really encouraging would make a new federal crime. We've also got the D.C. Crimes Act. I like this too because that gives Congress some override over the D.C. Council, because up until very recently, the District of Columbia's, if you will, city council, it's not a city, but they were really soft on crime. Now, that's changed a bit because carjackings are up over 100%. Felony theft is, still $1,000. But although crime is down slightly in D.C., we see all these high-profile violent crimes. And I think one of the reasons this is going to be a bipartisan situation, the D.C. Crimes Act, is because people in legislature are getting attacked. We keep hearing about that. I think some of the other important things coming out of all of this legislation is just that piece of tape that you played. We have politicians talking about defending the police, not defunding them. And they are specifically talking about how damaging anti-police rhetoric is. It's damaging to police. It's damaging to our mental health. It's damaging to our safety, because when people keep being told that we are the problem, that's one of the reasons that you have officer ambushes on the rise. Rich, we've had almost 150 cops shot already this year, and we just put 282 new names on the wall this week.
Wow. Sergeant Betsy Brantner Smith is the spokesperson for the National Police Association. And, you mentioned ambushes, and I saw a brutal video earlier today of an ambush, a car stop, the guy comes out blasting, and then, it just became a close quarters gunfight on the side of the road. And it really makes you think, we can't shun these people that do this every day. You just can't, because people will stop volunteering to do this work. And when that happens, we all pay the price. It's kind of like you're saying, the anti-police rhetoric hurts society. I think it's these anti-police actions hurt society even more, because ultimately you'll get people saying, I don't want to do it. And when that happens, all hell breaks loose. Sarge, we're going to come back and continue our discussion on this D.C. crime bill and more straight ahead. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Rich Valdez, who again will do a fine job, and I know you'll enjoy listening to him.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
The D.C. Crimes Act will reduce criminal activity in the district by making it easier to bring criminal juveniles to justice and ensuring the D.C. Council cannot continue its soft-on-crime agenda. The LEOSA Reform Act expands concealed carry rights for off-duty and retired police officers, guaranteeing that they can use their training to keep America safe on or off duty. Cops have an incredibly tough job. We have an obligation to back the blue and safeguard their mental health. In that vein, HRES 1213 acknowledges the harsh realities police officers face, recognizing the mental toll their jobs can take, condemns efforts to defund and demoralize them, and expresses solemn appreciation for the invaluable role they play in our communities.
All right. And there you have, again, Congresswoman Fishback discussing the bills that are in front of Congress that are very important. Our guest is Sergeant Betsy Brantner Smith. She's the spokesperson for the National Police Association. And Sarge, when you look at this stuff, I'm with you. I think it's incredibly important to make sure that we, do the legislative aspect of this. But to me, I think the public relations aspect of this is even bigger because there's too many people out there that are starting to side with these George Soros crazy lefty pro-crime progressive prosecutors. What say you?
Well, absolutely. Let's look at Washington, D.C. You just had a self-described woke judge release an 18-year-old on conditional bond after he shot up a vehicle, fired 26 shots, I believe, from an AR-15, didn't hit anybody, but the judge, he calls himself a woke judge, and he posts all this, anti-cop, Black Lives Matter stuff on his social media. He lets this 18-year-old get out and says, well, he's got parents, they'll keep an eye on him. He fired 26 bullets into a vehicle out of a rifle. Now, if I recall, Rich, we're told that AR-15s are bad and guns are bad, and that we're supposed to get more gun law. But here in Washington, D.C., we're not even using the gun laws that we have on the books. That's something we see in my native Chicago as well. I also want to talk about H.R. 7343 because the border is something that we're all talking about. That's a problem for everybody. And the Detain and Deport Illegal Aliens Who Assault Cops Act, I think, is absolutely genius. And this basically allows people to be deported and detained by ICE, after they're punished and everything. But so many of these woke jurisdictions ignore ICE detainers, and this will help deal with that because we all saw those, I think they were Venezuelan migrants who beat up New York City cops and then fled the state. So many of these issues that affect cops also affect the people we're trying to protect. And I think that people are going to, I think they're going to embrace a lot of this new legislation. And we're so grateful to the Congresswoman and to, Majority Leader Scalise and everybody who's getting involved in this, because they're saying what we have been begging leadership to say for so long, that we need to back the blue.
Amen to that, Sergeant Betsy Brantner Smith. And, it just, as you were talking about that, I remember reading about that bill, I forget the number, but the House resolution you just mentioned about the people that assault cops, illegal aliens. And when it was in committee, the votes, shocking to me that any politician would vote against that, yet some did. And I thought, that's crazy.
You're right.
Absolutely
It is crazy. But this is the thing. If you have been told, and let's face it, if you get elected, people like Representative Cori Bush out of Missouri is a great example. If you get elected because of your anti-cop stance, then of course you're going to continue that false narrative. That's why, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's pretty brave for these politicians to stand up and condemn the anti-police rhetoric and condemn the false narrative and talking about police officer mental health can be difficult for a political leader. And I want to remind everybody, police officers die twice as often by their own hand as they do by felonious assaults. So even as we're talking about police officers getting killed and getting injured, there's going to be almost 80,000 cops assaulted this year likely. But suicide and mental health issues also so greatly affect us. And not just us, they affect our families. I mean, you're a family member. You've heard this barrage of cops are bad, cops are racist, all of that. That didn't just affect your brothers. It affects you and their families, their kids. everybody. And so I think it's brave, I can't believe I have to say that, of these politicians to take this kind of stance with all this legislation.
Sergeant Betsy Brantner Smith, I want to pick up on that thread as soon as we come back on mental health of officers as we celebrate National Police Week here on America at Night. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, America, welcome back. We continue our National Police Week conversation with Sergeant Betsy Brantner Smith from the National Police Association. And Sarge, before the break, you mentioned something that I think is incredibly important, and that is the mental health of police officers. I want you to take a few minutes to discuss that.
Absolutely. People need to understand that police officers report higher rates of depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress. Like I said, we die twice as often by suicide as we do by our own hand. And understand that we're not real good at seeking out help for mental health issues. And this week in D.C., where nearly 40,000 police officers and their families are going to be there, celebrating loved ones, but also mourning them. We have peer support there. I have good friends that are doing peer support, things like that. But we need to recognize how stressful it is to be a police officer, because you're not only worried about getting hurt, you're worried about, am I going to get indicted for doing my job? And just think about this as a taxpayer. The worse a police officer's mental health is, the less productive they are. So this is a financial issue, it's a compassion issue, and it's a law and order issue, and we all need to be aware of it.
Sergeant Betsy Brantner Smith, I couldn't agree with you more. And, I was sharing during the break, I don't know if I've ever shared this on the air, but both my brothers have been involved, as cops, have been involved in shootings. And one of my brothers was actually, it was a targeted shooting at him while he was off duty, like a revenge type of thing. And the mental health aspect of it took him a long time to be able to trust society again and to not be kind of paranoid everywhere he went. And I think many cops deal with that without ever getting attacked or ambushed, right? You carry because you're like, hey, I'll maybe lock that person up. Maybe they've cleaned up and they've shaved and they remember me, but I don't remember them, that type of thing. And, it's that much worse when they come and get you specifically. And I can tell you, having seen it as a family member, it was very difficult for him to overcome a lot of that angst that went with this being attacked. And it goes unreported, kind of goes unspoken of. I remember asking him, I was like, how'd that make you feel? And he just looked at me and said, those guys never should have shot me. He played the tough guy role. But ultimately, I knew that this was something that hurt him in a very profound way, because it wasn't something that he wanted to do. One guy lived, one guy didn't. He shot them both. And it was, and he got a lot of commendations. It was at the time Mayor Dinkins was leaving New York City and Mayor Giuliani was coming in, and he got recognition from both mayors. And it was, a proud moment for our family, but it was also, a really profound moment of almost sadness. Like, damn, I'm sorry you had to go through that. And I think a lot of people just don't know that side of what cops go through. So thank you for sharing.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Thanks for sharing that. God bless your brothers and all you do, Rich.
Oh, amen. Thank you. And we appreciate you and the National Police Association. Sergeant Betsy Brantner Smith, thank you very much. God bless you. And folks, we're coming right back with Open Phone America. Don't go anywhere. 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the Thursday night edition of the program. It's hour number 3. We like to call it Open Phone America. So give us a call. The phone lines are open for your comments on everything we've discussed, whether it's the National Police Week, the big issues that are facing our country, and the Attorney General of the United States getting held in contempt of Congress. That happened earlier today, too. 833-4825-337, 833-4-VALDEZ is the phone number. And, you know, fake eyelashes are all the rage right now for women. Women everywhere are becoming more and more glamorous. I remember a time where, you know, only certain women, Hollywood superstars, model types, you know, those that were really done up, were the ones that were wearing fake eyelashes. But now beauty and glam has become so prominent. I mean, if you look at the Instagram account of many women, or even the Facebook feed of many women, they can't help but be bombarded by makeup tutorials and people teaching them how to do their eyelashes. And I'm not talking about just using mascara. I'm talking about, you know, eyelash extensions, hair extensions. I mean, it's the way of modern femininity, if you will, right? I see it all over the place, and I don't have an issue with it. Godspeed to you if you're a woman and you want to wear fake eyelashes. However, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene took exception to the false eyelashes being worn by her colleague, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Texas. It was during a House Oversight Committee. This was just about half hour ago. So this is breaking news from our nation's capital. And this turned into a big old shouting match. You've got Representative AOC Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez from New York. You know her. AOC all out crazy. My least favorite congresswoman from the Bronx and Queens. And she clashed with Marjorie Taylor Greene after Marjorie Taylor Greene accused Jasmine Crockett of wearing fake eyelashes. I know you don't believe me. Well, listen to this.
I'd like to know if any of the Democrats on this committee are employing Judge Merchan's daughter.
Please tell me what that has to do with Merrick Garland.
Is she a porn star?
Oh, Goldman. That's right. He's advising. Okay.
He's advising who? What? Do you know what we're here for? You know we're here about AG.
I don't think you know what you're here for.
Well, you the one talking about.
I think your fake eyelashes are messing up.
No, ain't nothing.
Hold on.
Listen.
Order.
Mr. Chairman.
That's beneath
even
you
regain order of your committee.
Order.
Please. There's a point of order.
We have a point of order. Mr. Lynch, state your point.
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to ask the parliamentarian if your conduct here in raising money in connection with this hearing is referable to the Ethics Committee within this hearing. Is a motion in order to refer your conduct and your abuse of
It's not a point of order.
Mr. I do have a point of order, and I would like to move to take down Ms. Greene's words. That is absolutely unacceptable. How dare you attack the physical appearance of another person?
Are your feelings hurt?
Her words down. Oh, girl, baby girl.
Oh, really?
Don't even play.
Baby girl? I don't think
we are going to move, and we're going to take your words down.
I second that motion.
So who will have to pay? Okay. All right. We're suspending.
Now, this comment came during a hearing that was supposed to be about Attorney General Merrick Garland being held in contempt of Congress, where they needed to discuss that, and they went on this for nearly an hour. This disorder with congresswomen screaming at each other, Congressman, Chairman James Comer leaving after not being able to maintain order. At least that's what's being reported by The Hill. Do we have another part of that cut? And it didn't stop there, right? This madness continued. Listen to this.
I'm just curious, just to better understand your ruling. If someone on this committee then starts talking about somebody's bleach blonde, bad built butch body, that would not be engaging in personalities, correct?
A what now?
Chairman, I make a motion to strike those words.
I don't think that's
Hold on.
part of
I'm trying to find clarification on what qualifies.
Chairman, motion to strike those
I had no idea
words.
what you just said.
We're not gonna do this. Look, you guys earlier literally just said
You
first.
just voted to do it.
Y'all did it first, so you don't want to talk about
voted to do it.
Order.
I'm trying to get clarification.
Look, calm down. Calm down.
No, because this
I
is
would
what
like
y'all
to get
do.
through proceedings.
So I'm trying to get
Miss
clarification.
Crockett, you're not
Y'all wanna
recognized.
play
Miss
games?
I
Crockett.
can't hear you with your
And
yelling.
You don't want
calm
me
down.
To be,
Can you please calm down?
Don't tell me to calm down.
Calm down.
Because y'all talk
Calm
noise,
down.
and then you
You're
can't
out of
take
control.
Because if I
Look,
come,
Chairman,
if I
can
come
we
and
send
talk
out
to
break
her,
for 5
y'all
minutes?
gonna have a problem.
Mr.
Order.
Chairman.
All right, Chair,
I know why
okay.
you're
Order.
acting
Chair now
like that.
recognizes
Not cute.
Miss Green for 4 minutes and 21 seconds. 4 minutes. Let Miss Green talk, and then you all can. I'll recognize.
But I
on
moved to
this side.
strike her words for a second time based on her second set of personal remarks attacking another member.
Who? Chairman Comer.
Because you all cannot
I have an
seem
amendment at
to
the desk,
apply
and this
the rules
sideshow
of the
needs to
committee.
stop.
We have to do this every time.
Okay, I'm recognized. I'm recognized. I'm going to go ahead and start talking.
Look, I know. Look, I don't know if you noticed it. I have 2 hearing aids. I'm very deaf. I'm not understanding. Everybody's yelling. I'm doing the best I can. Can we not recognize Ms. Green and let her
We
get?
cannot because of the rules of the committee, Mr. Chair. That is what I'm trying to communicate in the present moment.
We have a Okay, what's the motion?
The motion is to strike the gentlelady's words for the second set of remarks, not the first, the second.
She
that
has
apply
no
to
idea.
me.
She has no idea.
I'm sorry. I find this so funny, and it's a nail biter for me. I'm thinking, get me some popcorn. I wish I was watching this. I'm listening to the audio just like you are. But this finally ended. About like I said, about 30 minutes, 40 minutes ago, with a vote on whether or not to allow Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene to continue speaking during the hearing, which the panel ultimately voted in a 22-20 vote. Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, who's butted heads with Greene in the past, crossed party lines to vote against Marjorie Taylor Greene and to not allow her to speak. Boebert was sitting 2 seats away from Marjorie Taylor Greene during the vote. That's so funny. And then Greene said, I hope you brought popcorn. That is so funny because that's what I just said. And Republicans moved to hold Merrick Garland in contempt after the Attorney General refused to hand over the audio recording of President Biden's interview with Special Counsel Robert Hur. We talked about that earlier in our conversation with Congressman Jeff Van Drew, who's on the Judiciary Committee and was there and voted to hold A.G. Garland in contempt. So that's what they're there for. But the members that I just mentioned, Jasmine Crockett, All Out Crazy, AOC, MTG, and Lauren Boebert, got into a little kerfuffle, it seems, it started over fake eyelashes. Then she traded barbs with her over saying, she had a bleach blonde no sé qué, right? It was all over the place. I don't know what. So that was really, really interesting. And you're going to hear more of that tomorrow, right? Tomorrow, I can guarantee you're going to hear it on the morning shows. You're going to hear it all over the place. This back and forth over the fake eyelashes and the bleach blonde hair that went down in Congress. So we'll take your calls on that. National Police Week, everything else we've discussed tonight, your calls and more are coming up. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
There is a psychic weight to living in communities that are designed to be disconnected. It affects your social life.
It affects your social life, she says. That is Congresswoman AOC. About a month ago, she said that there is a psychic weight. I don't know what a psychic weight is. Do you? I don't. But apparently she was outraged today as she was channeling her inner Greta Thunberg when she said, "How dare you speak about a person's appearance?" She was blasting Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, MTG, as MTG told Rep. Jasmine Crockett that she can't see straight because of her fake eyelashes. Jasmine Crockett fired back, saying, "You don't know what's going on. If I were to say to you that you're a beach blonde, poorly built," I don't remember what she said. They just went at it. This was a free-for-all. And then Republican from Colorado, Lauren Boebert, who has some beef on these streets with Representative MTG, she decides that, you know what, I'm going to side with the Democrats to vote against MTG to strike her comments from the congressional record. It was all out chaos, and you heard the clip before. You're going to hear a lot more of it tomorrow. You heard it here first with me, Rich Valdez, America at Night, and I want to get your reaction to that, as we're the first in the nation to report this little kerfuffle amongst the ladies in Congress. Let's go to Dothan, Alabama, and check in with Ed on WDBT. Ed, go right ahead.
Hey, Rich. Thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
Grow up. I mean, if we can't get along in something like that, I mean, all this fighting and fussing amongst ourselves, it's ridiculous. You know, who cares if she's got fake eyelashes? If you want to say something about it afterwards, fine. But and if she did say something, if you can't take a little criticism, then you don't need to be in there. You're a politician. You're going to get criticized.
Right.
But that's not the place to start something like that. Come on, be professional. I mean, we expect our kids to conduct themselves, right, and then they're in there acting like teenage girls. I mean, I don't know what's going on with this country, but we're in a lot of trouble if we don't stop this crap,
Yeah. I hear you, Ed.
I just really don't know what to say. I mean, what do you do for
yeah, I don't know either, right? I'm sitting here, I see the article come across from the producer, and then I heard the audio, and I thought to myself, oh my goodness, this is crazy. I mean, I was giggling the whole time like a schoolgirl. I thought it was funny, but I'm with you at the same time. I agree. This is what's happening in Congress? Come on, we've got to do better. But it was a little bit of comic relief for me, and I just think, man, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's clearly what's happened is I think there's been a major departure, Ed, from the collegiality that we're used to in Congress, because it used to be like we're Americans. We disagree on things, like you like the Mets, I like the Yankees, but we're New Yorkers. That's not really the case anymore, right? There's a real belief, and I'm not saying it's an inaccurate one, but there's a real belief that your colleague who disagrees with you in Congress, who's in the other party, is your enemy and an enemy of your nation. And in some cases that may be true, but in most cases I don't think it is. But I think that's the energy that they bring to the table. And they're just thinking, you know what, the things you're voting for, the people you're supporting, what you stand for is antithetical to what I think is good for my family, for me, and for my country. And this becomes a point of contention and a source of conflict. And we've got to get to that place where it's back to, well, we're going to disagree on policy, but we agree that we love America. And that's where we've departed from. We don't all love America anymore. There are people that love America, and there are people that don't. There are people that think America is the best country in the world, and there are people that think that we're an evil, colonialist, Zionist-loving, deep state-filled, evil empire. And while elements of that may be true as well, It's not the totality of what America is. And that's where we have this departure where people start to hate America. And it happens on both sides. You've got people that hate America on one side of the aisle and the other. I would say it's way more prevalent on the left because they teach it in kindergarten and in college and in high school and everywhere else that capitalism is bad, Americanism is bad, you name it, it's bad. And that's why we are where we are, because people who came through those ranks, like AOC, all out crazy, went to school in Boston. This is what they believe. This is what they were taught. And they're thinking this country's very bad. These are the Zionist, evil capitalist pigs. And that's why we have the problem we have. Ed, thank you for your call. Again, it's National Police Week. We've been having some interesting discussion on lots of topics tonight. Where do I go? Let's go to Florida. John in Vero Beach, Florida. Go right ahead.
Yay, Rich. How you doing? It's always a pleasure.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome. You can't make this up. I couldn't believe it. I'm a 100% service-connected disabled veteran. I pull into a gas station, go in and pay, and on my way out to the car, they had just turned the pump on because I paid my $40, right? And there's a guy, who appeared to be illegal alien, pumping gas from my pump that was just turned on into a 5-gallon container. Wow. I come out there and say, hey, what are you doing? You're stealing gasoline. The guy takes the nozzle out of the container, sticks it on the pump real quick before I got up to him, and moves over to the next row of pumps and starts trying to pull the same stunt. Man. Unbelievable. And the Vero Beach police, of course, I called them, and they did a deep dive trying to get the information, catch the guys on film.
Yeah. I'm good luck if they're able to get them and look at the security cameras and figure out what's going on. And these instances, I don't know what's what. Honestly, I don't know if it's people who don't know how to use gas pumps, if it's people that are trying to get over, and how bad and destitute are you if you're trying to get over. All of it doesn't make sense to me, but that's the world we're living in. And it's a very unfortunate situation, John. I want to give a big shout out to everybody listening in Vero Beach, Florida, WTTB. I love it when we hear from our callers all over the country. And we've got calls right now from Arkansas, Idaho, Montana, Chicago. And, of course, we regularly get calls from listeners in California and New York. And always a pleasure to hear from you guys. Let me give you the number again, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. Let's go to Joe in Salem, Arkansas, KSAR. Got a minute to go. Go right ahead.
Greetings and salutations, Rich. We get one night of your show here, 4 out of 5. The Cardinals are on, flying their way back.
Oh, geez. Baseball season. Yeah, we get preempted. That's tough.
Yep. And this Eddie Garcia, yeah, that's a good dude right there. He's articulate.
Joe, hang on. The music's kicking in, and I got to take a quick pause right here. But we're going to come right back to your call, and then we'll continue with the rest of the calls as well. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. Don't go anywhere.
And he's breaking it down. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, folks, again, giving you an update on the breaking news. I don't have breaking news music available to me, so I have to do it myself. And the breaking news was about an hour ago. Chaos erupted in a hearing as Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, Congresswoman Greene from Georgia, all-out crazy AOC, my least favorite congresswoman from the Bronx and Queens, AOC, and Jasmine Crockett from Texas, they all got into this big argument that seemed to start with trading barbs over fake eyelashes. And it was just attitude. And I guess really, if we really think about it, we're going to replay the audio for you right now, so keep your ears open. But it was the congresswoman from Texas who says, "Do you even know what we're here for?" Which then welcomed the shot from Marjorie Taylor Greene saying, "You don't even know you can't see straight because you're wearing fake eyelashes," or whatever, or perhaps you can't see straight because of your fake eyelashes. It really, again, I can't help but laugh through this thing. But I want you to listen to what happened in Congress at around 11:30 p.m. Eastern time. You're going to be hearing about this all over the news tomorrow because, I mean, how could you not? This is entertaining and informative. Listen to this.
I'd like to know if any of the Democrats on this committee are employing Judge Merchan's daughter.
Please tell me what that has to do with Merrick Garland.
Is she a porn star?
Oh, Goldman.
Is she a porn
That's
star?
right. He's advising. Okay.
He's advising who? What? Do you know what we're here for? You know we're here about.
And I just want to throw in, not only does the other congressman next to her say, is she a porn star? Like trying to catch up to what's going on. But no, the other question was with respect to the judge in the Trump case, who's employing his daughter, who's this huge Democrat fundraiser, who, because her dad is the judge, is raising all this money for Democrats. Then they go and they say, oh, no, Goldman is. That's Congressman Dan Goldman, who was hand in glove with Adam Schiff in the Trump impeachment, if you might recall. And he's actually been advising, coaching, and training Michael Cohen, as luck would have it. Go ahead.
I don't think you know what you're here for.
Well, you the one talking about.
I think your fake eyelashes are messing up.
No, ain't nothing.
Hold on.
Listen.
Order. Mr. Chairman,
That's beneath even
please regain order of your committee.
Order.
Please.
There's a point of order.
We have a point of order. Mr. Lynch, state your point.
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to ask the parliamentarian if your conduct here in raising money in connection with this hearing is referable to the Ethics Committee within this hearing. Is a motion in order to refer your conduct and your abuse of
It's not a point of order.
Mr. I do have a point of order, and I would like to move to take down Ms. Greene's words. That is absolutely unacceptable. How dare you attack the physical appearance of another person?
Are your feelings hurt?
Her words down. Oh, girl, baby girl.
Oh, really?
Don't even play,
Baby girl? I don't think
we are going to move, and we're going to take your words down.
I second that motion.
So who will have to pay? Okay. All right. We're suspending.
Oh, girl. Oh, baby girl. Don't even. Baby girl. No, we're not doing that. Oh, man. I would have paid to be ringside at this event. It was just so funny for me. And again, I realize I'm selfishly laughing at this because, as one of the callers pointed out earlier, it's, while it is entertaining and informative, it really is also an indictment on the state of affairs of America, right? That we just can't have a simple session of Congress where we hold the Attorney General in contempt for hiding behind the transcript and not wanting to release the audio where Joe Biden admits that he's a baboso, right? A bumbling old man drooling all over himself that can't get out of his own way. And that was according to the special counsel Hur's report. So in retrospect, all of this is very eye-opening and interesting, right? We went from Judge Merchan and his daughter, the fundraiser, to is she a porn star? to Dan Goldman advising Michael Cohen, the star witness who's a convicted perjurer, and of course, and then selling T-shirts while the trial's in session of Trump behind bars. I mean, it just doesn't get better than this. Everybody's swindling one way or another, and ultimately ending with this, where there's a vote and they vote to remove Marjorie Taylor Greene's comments from the record, and the vote passes because Lauren Boebert from Colorado joins them because she has beef on the streets with Rep. MTG. So that is as far as I know. You're going to be hearing about this tomorrow. I can only imagine how everybody's going to have their show, audio or video on television, where they come in with, ooh, baby girl, or the play-by-play on MTG saying, maybe you can't see because of your fake eyelashes. I mean, the whole thing is just made my night. Joe, Salem, Arkansas, KSAR, go right ahead.
Well, I'll tell you what, Rich, me too. I haven't had any entertainment all day long, and I thought that was great. You know, MTG, she's a perfect ringmaster for that circus up there anyway. I don't know why they have to all get so bent out of shape over you know. I thought she was rather civil compared to the others, didn't you?
Yeah, you know, honestly, I think it was just everybody's tempers were flaring. And I'm not a congressperson, so I don't know the rules. I don't know if you're supposed to make fun of somebody's eyelashes or not. I would assume that you're probably not. But do I think I would do it? Probably. I think I would make fun of people's appearance. I mean, that's all I do is make nicknames here on the radio. So, you know, many of the reasons why I don't go to Congress, right? People always tell me I should run for office, and I think, oh, my gosh, I'd probably get myself in a lot of trouble. But you know what? I think they all could have been worse, but they probably all could have been better, too, in retrospect, when you look at that. And it makes me think that, you know, when we're trying to get the people's business done at 11:30 at night, we probably don't want to start a fight. But in listening to that, it's Jasmine Crockett that really came across sideways and disrespectful when she says, you know, do you even know what we're here for? I don't think that tone was necessary, and obviously that's going to invite someone to defend themselves, and like Marjorie Taylor Greene did when she said, oh, maybe you can't see straight because you're wearing fake eyelashes, and she's witty to boot. So maybe we can get her on the show on Monday and get the play-by-play on this if we can. I don't know, but let us continue. Thanks for your call, Joe. I appreciate it. Big shout out to Salem, Arkansas, KSAR. And I want to continue because we've been talking about National Police Week and a bunch of other topics tonight that are, you know, just weighing on the people's minds across the country. Let's go to Wayne, Sandpoint, Idaho, KBFI. Go right ahead, Wayne. Welcome.
How you doing, Rich? It's a pleasure to speak with you. We love you here in Boundary County.
Oh, thank you. Love you guys. What's on your mind tonight, Wayne?
I'm doing well. And I have to say one thing. I reject the term ex-military because there's really no such thing. Once you're in the military, especially if you go deep into it, you're a former military. And,
yeah, I tend to use the word retired because I think it gives the most respect for whatever position they had. And I agree. I think ex also gives the connotation that maybe that, you know, they left on terms that were less than honorable or something like that. And I never want to cast that kind of aspersion on somebody's service. But tell us about National Police Week and your connection to it.
Well, my father, of course, he retired from the military. He was very high up in naval intelligence, deploying nuclear weapons into the submarines at the end of his career. But when he left the military, he went, you know, and he was up there in age. He went into law enforcement in Valley County and beautiful Bitterroot Valley of Montana. And, you know, he enjoyed this work very much, although he would often tell me that he felt that there was an erosion of property owners' rights, and we were having a big problem with organized crime gangs and cartels moving drugs up into the Northwest. A lot of it coming out of the 909 that I know you're very familiar with at that time. That's where they're coming out of the motorcycle gangs and things like that. Often they bring illicit drugs up here and then find straw buyers to import, get their hands on weapons, trade the drugs for weapons, and then go back down to California where they were far more valuable. And eventually those weapons, in his mind, would end up in Mexico. And he just felt that this was that police and deputies and sheriff agents across the country were under tremendous pressure trying to enforce these things because sometimes it made him feel like his hands were tied. You know,
I think, Wayne, so many cops feel the exact same way today. whether it's because they're not able to react a certain way or police the way they used to because they've taken away chokeholds, they've taken away headlocks, they've taken away so many different ways to subdue somebody. They've taken away the ability to react in so many big cities where now they don't want you to react with force to somebody that might be violent, but they want to bring out what they call a violence interrupter. Some are trained social workers, others aren't. And it just is remarkable to me how you kind of hamstring and handcuff the police. You don't allow them to do their jobs. And then we're surprised when crime is on the rise and when people are getting hurt and when women are getting raped. You combine that with an open border at the southern part of our country, and to me, it's a no-brainer, right? We are doing so many things to upend the status quo of so many things, whether it's keeping our borders secure. We're not doing that anymore. Whether it's trying to have a balanced budget, we haven't done that in decades. Whether it's having a respectful and collegial environment in Congress, that doesn't seem to be working too well. So, I mean, so many things are headed in the wrong direction, inflation chief among them. And I think the American people are honestly very tired. And this is why so many people are looking for a change, and so many people are enthused about this year's election. And some aren't either. You know, the rapper Cardi B, and I don't know if you're familiar with her, but I saw an article today that said that she's not voting in 2024. Now, to me, this is as good as a vote for Trump, because Cardi B was an advocate of Bernie Sanders, but then she changed her position and decided that all of a sudden she's just not going to vote. Why? Because she realized that Joe Biden was not doing a good job with her taxes. And she came up in Hollywood, right, going from making like $1 million a year to making $10 million a year. And when she got hit with all these, taxes, she realized, you know what? The Democrats aren't it. So she's slowly but surely changing her tune, and I think a lot of people are doing the same exact thing. Wayne in Sandpoint, Idaho, KBFI, thank you for your call. Folks, we're going to continue with the rest of your calls and more. Don't move a muscle.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, America, welcome back, and we continue with your calls and more. Let's go to Ambridge, Pennsylvania, KDKA country, and check in with Bruce. Go right ahead.
Hey, Rich, how you doing?
Wonderful, thank you.
Ever since I started picking my son up 3 nights a week, I've been listening to you, and I think you made a mistake tonight when you quoted that crime has gone up. Actually, violent crime has gone down since 1993. It hasn't gone up. It's gone down.
Well, I didn't say since 1993. I'm specifically talking about from 2020 to 2022.
You said it's gone up, but it hasn't gone up. It's actually gone down.
Yeah,
So
just
that's
check
a
out
mistake.
pewresearch.org. You'll see from 2020 to 2022, the U.S. murder rate saw its largest single-year increase on record. That's a fact. Pew Research. I mean, you could split hairs with me if you'd like, but I'm just telling you where I get my statistics from. Pew Research. They're pretty reputable, no?
Well, anybody can do that. I can pick and choose what facts I want to.
Well, it's interesting, right? So I'm doing a radio show, and I'm picking stats, and I'm saying that crime is on the rise, and you're saying they're not. I'm telling you where I get the stat from, but you're still belly aching.
Well, those facts, the crime that you're quoting that has gone up, but actually part of the crime that has gone down. So, in essence, those crime that have risen up a little bit in the last couple of years, They haven't risen up. They're coming from a very low point and going up a little bit. So they're not.
Okay, so when we see rape all over the city of New York, when we see stores getting looted, all of this is normal to you. This is not on the rise. This is not new, right? This is in our lifetimes. We've always seen people robbing Target with garbage cans. We've always seen people knocking women upside the head and stealing their cash registers. This is commonplace for you.
No, it's not commonplace for me. All right.
So then you have to realize at some point that when you have prosecutors that don't prosecute certain crimes because they won't consider them crimes anymore, it doesn't mean that if a prosecutor that won't prosecute a crime says, "Oh no, we haven't had any convictions of this or of that," then guess what? Just because they're not counting them doesn't mean they're not happening. You just have to have eyes and see and talk to people, right, and realize that things are going bad. In San Francisco, people are leaving their cars open with their windows rolled down. That's never happened before in the 1990s and the 1980s and 1970s. It didn't even happen in the 2010s, right? It's happening now. And the reason it's happening now is because they know people will break their windows. You go into New York City. I know I do. You're in Ambridge, PA. I don't know how often you make it into the city, but I can tell you, it's hard to walk around near Penn Station, Madison Square Garden. It's hard to walk around near Times Square, right, where there's been more shootings this year than I can imagine since I was a little kid. Because why? You've got people from all over the country that are now coming into New York City because they know that they won't be prosecuted for their crime. You have the entire Roosevelt Hotel, where once great and famous people once stayed, and now it's filled with migrants from all over the continent of Africa, all over the continent of South America, that are there just living, waiting for whatever the next step in their process is going to be. They're being given room and board. They're fighting each other. They need security. They need to be protected from the outside world. The outside world needs to be protected from these people. It's a de facto prison that's been created. So, I mean, you could say that there has not been an increase in violent crime all you want, but I don't think there's anybody that's going to believe that, except maybe yourself. Thanks for the call, brother. We're coming right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Amigos, I want to ask you to come together and in a thought and in a prayer and a moment of positivity for Lowell in Atlanta, who called in and is asking for some prayerful support. His mom passed away at 95 years old in the hospital. Lowell, God bless you and your family. I pray that you find the strength that you need to get through this difficult time. It's a time I went through when I was in my 30s. And it wasn't easy then. I can't imagine it's easy for you or anybody else at any point in life. So Godspeed to you, Lowell. And anybody who wants a shout out for their radio station in any part of the country, whether it's WRNN in Myrtle Beach or anywhere else, you got to call in and you got to make a worthy contribution to the late night national town hall conversation so I can call out your name and your call letters. Now, let's go to Frank, Evergreen, Montana, KOFI. Go right ahead quickly.
Hi, Rich. Yeah, I wanted to say I'm more for back in the brown than the blue, because the brown is the uniform of the county sheriff here. And here we have a city that's kind of a communitarian socialist establishment with no city jail at all.
So you really rely on the sheriff and their constitutional oath to be the law. And listen, I give a big shout out to all the sheriffs out there. Where would we be without them, right? We got a lot of great sheriffs out there. Frank, sorry to cut you off. The music means I got to go. Paul in Boise, KBOI. Again, we got cut off, but we'll get to you soon. Folks, have a good one. I'll be back before you know it. Hasta la próxima. I'm Rich Valdez.